Hiring is important, but finding the right people can be a real challenge. That's why ZipRecruiter is obsessed with finding you qualified candidates fast. ZipRecruiter finds candidates with the right experience and notifies them to apply for your job. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within just one day. The right candidates are out there. This is how you find them. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
To try ZipRecruiter for free.
Uh-oh, for some reason we seem to have lost our game feed. I don't know what I did. We'll try and restart the game feed. Somebody broke something. Worst comes to worst, we'll do a display capture. No, there it goes. It's back. All right, so can everyone see me, hear me? Are we all good? That's a bit loud. Turn that down a little bit. Okay, everyone can see and hear. All right, perfect. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our first ever AMA. I know we have a lot of people in the Discord chat right now. I kind of left the voice chat there so it wouldn't be chaos here in the stream. Yes, I'm sure everyone is going to hell. Can see and hear me. Perfect. Settings. We're going to turn our music volume down here. That way you guys can have something more to look at besides my face. I thought we'd do a little battle tech.
Welcome, Commander.
So Jinzo has an idea. Jinzo, what is your idea? Yeah, Jinzo, that would be fun. Why don't we pop into just moderator chat? That way I can hear you.
All right, I'm here.
Excellent. So, guys, for those of you that don't know, this is Jinzo. He is one of the mods for the channel. He's a fantastic person.
I'd probably recommend, unless you want to have me on stream, probably.
Oh, it's fine. It'd be a little odd. I don't know. Do you want to? Am I even saying anything in Discord?
I don't want to hear myself.
You don't want to hear yourself?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get this Q&A started.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Did we have a
whenever you're ready, Sid.
Yeah, I'm ready whenever. Let's do it. Oh, Pan is saying, tell Sid what happened.
What?
Pan is saying, tell Sid what happened.
Your sound just went muted, Sid.
Did it? Test. It's coming through the stream. Okay, it looks like.
On Discord, at least.
Oh yeah, I don't think because I have streamer test. I think because OBS is grabbing my microphone, it's not porting it through into. It's not letting it through into Discord.
Okay.
So I might need 2 microphones for these for this setup then.
I just know this is how Leonard does it with Brandon, so I don't know what he does, what Leonard actually does.
I genuinely get the feeling that it may be because of the role confusion,
Test? No.
which would be a problem on my part.
That's interesting. It's very interesting indeed. I'm not sure why I don't seem to have permissions to talk here. I'll pop up to a general chat here. Test, 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 test. No, it's just not porting through to Discord for some reason. Oh, they're saying Windows is set to allow applications to take exclusive control. That would be it, because if that is a default setting, I haven't changed that. So if someone would be willing to copy-paste questions, I could answer them. Well, we'll just start at the top with the Q&Q. How about that?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and just... I have a Google Doc with the Ask Sid questions organized out. It's in my chat.
Okay. Testing. I might have to test. No. Yes, no. I don't think it'll release the control until I close everything out, and I don't want to do that, so. So, okay. So you're typing it out in mod chat? I mean, I can just read through the Q&Q list here. Oh, Google Docs. Google Docs are fun. Okay. Oh, yeah. From the Ask Sid channel, non-patrons are labeled okay. Hi, Draxon.
Hey, Maker. You're going through your microphone, their keyboard.
Yeah, we can
my
hear
apologies.
your keyboard. Okay, so we have stuff taking over the screens here. I am so prepared for this, guys. Look at this. This is great. Such a fantastic stream so far. 15 minutes in and nothing's been accomplished. I'm so good. Okay, Hydraxon, what made you make your channel? What prompted me to make my channel to begin with was basically...
Well, it might speech jam me, so...
What? Oh. What prompted me to make my channel was the simple fact that I've been a gamer for a long time, and I actually always wanted to start doing YouTube content, but I didn't know what. And then I started watching people like Angry Joe, and I thought he was absolutely hilarious when I first came across his channel. And through him, I was introduced to Total Biscuit, and from offshoot of Total Biscuit, I came across Jesse Cox and Dodger, and I started just finding the wider world of the YouTube gaming, as it were. And I realized that looking through and seeing a lot of other channels out there, I saw a lot of them, and I realized I could do a way better job. And I know that's a little bit of arrogance, but I wanted to do something like that, and I realized that I have a very good way of explaining things, I think, to people when I just sit down and start thinking about it. And So I decided I was going to go along that route, and I wanted to do game reviews and everything because I know I play a lot of games, and I thought I would have a good methodology of breaking them down and relating things to people, and so I decided to just do it one drunken night with a half a bottle of Jameson in my system. And I ended up ordering over $1,000 worth of recording equipment, most of it that I didn't even need. And it just kind of sprouted from there. So Watt IOI, I think that's how that is. Asks, I know you don't review games gifted, but do you still accept gifts for the heck of it? I try to avoid games as gifts because it creates a bias there and an expectation, and I just tend to prefer to avoid them whenever possible. Besides, I'm doing well enough on my own with my day job that I can afford most of the games that I purchase on my own, so that's not really a huge concern. Dark. Let's see. Lance Lake, do you ever review web games? Like games that are mostly text run over the web, like Kingdom of Loathing? Not really, no. Mostly because a lot of them are extremely cookie cutter. And so it'd basically be just saying the same thing over and over and over again. Dark Ass was wondering if Sid likes The Darkest Dungeon. I actually haven't played it. I have it. I haven't played it yet. What is my guilty pleasure game? Final Fantasy X-2 would be my guilty pleasure game. I just think it's a really good game. Let's see. Fatal Foxtrot asks, so now that Andrew Watt has been shamed and defeated, what are you going to do for an arch nemesis? Every hero needs one, balance and shit. Got anyone in mind, or do you prefer them to come to me? I mean, Andrew Watt was never my nemesis. He wasn't. He really was not. He was just someone with far too much ego and not nearly enough intelligence. I'm sure there will be more asset flippers and shady developers out there. We're finding them all the time. And sooner or later, another one will act in a absolutely shameful and deplorable fashion as Andrew Watt has. So I'm sure more will crop up. But I'm not really concerned. As long as we stick to, as long as we maintain a moral, ethical, and intellectual high ground, there's really nothing they can ever do. Hydraxon, is CD Keys a legit site? According to Hydraxon's friends at EA, it is. Well, EA has such a fantastic reputation. But, no, I've never actually looked into CD Keys, the site itself, so I honestly have no way of knowing. Let's see. J-Cell asks, have you ever felt that there was a perfect game, or at least one that was so close to perfect you could recommend it to pretty much anyone? The closest I've ever seen would be, over the course of my entire gaming experience, there's been several. Way back in the early 90s, I would have to say Secret of the Silver Blades and Pool of Radiance, that entire Dungeons & Dragons video game arc. Pool of Radiance, Secret of the Silver Blades, Curse of the Azure Bonds, those games were beyond phenomenal for their time. Later on, we had the Wing Commander series, which, to me, they were a perfect game. They had a perfect balance of story and gameplay, and I always love a good flight sim. And then later on, we have most of the early BioWare days with Baldur's Gate, the Baldur's Gate series, the Icewind Dale trilogy, the Neverwinter Nights arc. All of those were just, they did have their own specific flaws, but as far as game content and what you were provided with them, they were absolutely amazing. And most recently, Witcher 3 would be the only real legitimate recent game in recent years that I would say would be chalked up to that outside of the Mass Effect series. Mass Effect would have been on that list, except they completely screwed up the ending. Any other hobbies? No, not really. JSL also asked if I have any other hobbies. I don't really. I used to be an extremely avid reader, but a lot of it just comes down to time and time management. And the problem is there's never enough hours in the day. There just aren't. I mean, between my day job and YouTube and being a father, I barely have time to sleep, let alone do anything else. I don't, believe it or not, I don't even actually play video games as often as I did even 3 months ago. Sakura Knight asks, do you feel that easy access tools like RPG Maker, Game Guru tools, and things like that overall help or harm the indie dev scene? A little of both, actually. Game Guru and RPG Maker are great entry-level tools. They are. They are absolutely fantastic to help a developer learn the tools that they need for their craft. What we see there and where the drawback is with Game Guru and RPG Maker is we see too many games put out that come from those that are very, very early on in a game developer's career. And they post those games onto the Steam storefront in order to get some money out of their effort. Even though, it's, my first game ever, I'm going to put it on the Steam storefront, isn't always the best thing. So for developers, I would actually steer them away from using those tools for a final game unless you use, heavily modified components in them. Do something to make it original, not just another RPG Maker cookie cutter cutout. Or the same with Game Guru. I mean, those games are literally a dime a dozen, and most of them are vastly overcharged for what you get. Sakura Knight also asked, if I can be so cheeky as to get a second question in too, do you feel that certain genres of games are dying out, like slower turn-based games? Absolutely. Turn-based games are most definitely dying out, and they have been since the focus on multiplayer started coming into being. Also, your traditional RPG game is virtually dead at this point. The Witcher 3 was the most recent good iteration of that. I think with the way the industry is going and the way that, especially with AAA publishers, that their focus being on microtransactions, we've already seen it with EA. They will most definitely steer away from those as hard as they can because there's far too much effort for the game that they get. Professor Barbado asks, what you think about Assassin's Creed Origin, and what do you think about a teacher using games to teach history, using with control, of course. Assassin's Creed Origin, I haven't checked it out yet, so I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, with the tiered DRM protection on that game, I don't even want to try running it on my computer until that stuff is removed. But as far as teachers using games to teach history, I think it's a fantastic concept. It's one, using video games to teach children of all ages has been a tool for an extremely long time. I remember playing Math Blasters back in grade school, and we had a huge amount of fun with that. I think it was like third grade, and second or third grade, and third and fourth grade. Yes, my brain's a little fuzzy there. But we had a ton of fun with it, and, it legitimately taught us and gave us a lot of good practice with, long division and all sorts of things like that. So using games to entertain while you educate is most definitely a viable option in my mind. And anything you can do to keep a person engaged while they're being taught, I think is fantastic. We'll take, it looks like we ran out of Discord questions already, so I'm just going to scroll up here unless Genzo wants to start copy pasting or somebody wants to start copy pasting. Oh, I should actually be playing this game, shouldn't I?
Commencing deployment.
I got so focused on that.
For combat.
I could just do the FaceTime. Uh-oh, and I broke my game. Oh, there it is. On The Witcher 3, did it bother you to hear about CD Projekt Red's staff treatment? A little bit. It's always rough to see developers, especially a group of people that are so amazingly talented, get treated in a very deplorable fashion. And the problem is that's actually not uncommon with developers in those smaller countries and regions. I mean, you still see it to a certain extent with even in the U.S., but not generally to that level. But it's a shame, and I know, especially considering what an amazing job they all did, to see them mistreated at all is horrible.
Command interface initiated.
Yes, Commander. Moving to position.
We're just waiting for next question here, so don't mind us. We're just gonna play a little BattleTech in the meantime.
Got it.
Oh, next page. Haha. I'm sorry. I was being silly. Matt Serenketo, what's your favorite board game? Axis and Allies, actually. I think it's an amazing board game.
I'm here. Affirmative.
And Doubtful Detective, we ever gonna have a Patreon game night? I'll consider it. I will strongly consider it. Again, the thing is, time. That's, I hate to sound like a broken record, but everything under the sun falls into a matter of, time, matter, place. And unfortunately, I have so few hours in the day. I mean, I'm heavily breaking from my schedule as it is, just to be able to do something for you guys to show my appreciation, because I think you do deserve it. So I will try my best, but I can't make any guarantees on that at this point. Okay, Jake Morgan asks, so what are your expectations for Cyberpunk 2077, and do you think that the team can pull it off again, or do you think that most of the talent would have jumped ship with Witcher 3 under their belts? You see, Witcher 3 set a very high bar. I mean, it is, I think, probably the first game that I gave, when I was actually bothering to score games on my channel, it earned a 10. It flat out earned it. And the continued progression and improvement that we've seen from CD Projekt Red basically means to me that they need to maintain that sheer level of excellence. Because if they don't, then a lot of people are going to be upset. So it's kind of one of those things where they do have the potential of being a victim of their own success, but we will see.
Yeah.
See, Lauren Wright, who's your favorite Doctor and why? It's obviously David Tennant.
What now? Moving to position.
And the reason why I say it's obviously David Tennant isn't even necessarily because of his acting style in general. It's more the sheer amount of passion that he brought to it. And the reason why is because David Tennant actually got into acting because he wanted to play Doctor Who someday. When he was a kid, that's why he went into acting. And to actually see him be able to fulfill that dream, and you could see just how much he cared about the character and the role, that none of the other Doctors even compare to me. If you were, JCell asks, if you were to be given a chance to tweak an existing law, what would that change be? obviously, it would be the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And the reason why I think I probably will sound like a complete broken record is because
Let's move.
it's an extremely draconic law that's based in the mid-90s surrounding peer-to-peer file sharing and things like Kazaa and Napster and all of those. And it was actually put into place at the behest of the music and movie industries. And it is a system that, despite America's laws being very much, the burden of proof being on the accuser, in this instance with the DMCA, the burden of proof very much lies on the defendant or the content creator. Preferred sports teams. Team Evil Genius. I don't really watch sports. I'm not a big sports fan. I do enjoy esports, though. Well, more specifically, I enjoy watching StarCraft 2 esports. Latte asks, favorite Starfleet captain? Ooh. Benjamin Sisko would have to be my hands down favorite. I'll take that back. Benjamin Sisko and Captain Picard are tied in my book as the two best out of all those that we have. And the reason for that is the sheer amount of Benjamin Sisko, he went in a direction that no other captain ever had in the past. And that was something that has always been a tradition of Star Trek, is kind of breaking the mold, as it were. And he did that. He stepped out of the, because we had Kirk, who was, that was very much a Western put into a science fiction format. And then we had Captain Picard, who was the cool, older, level-headed, wise man, who still made a lot of mistakes, but, his wisdom lied more in his ability to learn and grow from his mistakes. And that exploration of the human condition. And Benjamin Sisko brought even more to that, where he was able to bring his wisdom and experience and a little bit of sass to it, too. Justin S. says, hey, Sid, do you think we can ever get rid of loot boxes in games, or is already too accepted by gamers at this point? I don't think the jury's out on that yet. I think that there is a potential to push them back to the point where there will be a lot of games that won't want to implement them just because of the backlash. And we've already seen that with Monster Hunter and that other game that I actually did a video on, where they won't put those loot crate microtransactions in their games because of the simple fact that they don't want to deal with a negative PR. Ooh, 35% chance. I like that.
Firing.
And, well, a little bit. But the thing is the thing you have to worry about with the loot boxes in games is viewer apathy and player apathy. I mean, people have such short attention spans that, they get burned out on hearing about this stuff. They get burned out from hearing people like myself and Jim Sterling constantly beating on this is bad, this is bad. And that is what will get it. That is always what will allow such things to continue. And the AAA companies know this. They know that they've just let people rile and rage long enough. Eventually they'll give up. They'll get tired. They'll get worn out.
Target locked.
That's a pretty good shot. Genzo asks, do you personally think at any point people like Miss Mauer or Mr. Watt will ever become more prevalent in the industry?
Barely
No.
hit me.
I really don't. The reason why is because, you know, people like
Yeah?
Alex Maurer and Andrew Watt both they don't have a leg to stand on. They have no moral high ground. They have no ethical high ground. They have no intellectual high ground. They have no legal high ground. They literally have nothing to stand on except their own ego and their own vapid conclusions that they draw from absolutely nothing.
Firing. Targeting systems janky.
And because of that, you know, people like them will be shown to be the charlatans and frauds that they are each and every time. Oh, really? Knockdown?
I'm wounded.
And no, I think there will be a lot of people with even, you know, half a brain cell won't want to repeat the pattern of mistakes that they've made. Jake Morgan asks, boring question, but favorite drink and why? I'm guessing you're going to say favorite adult beverage. I actually enjoy a good vodka martini. Professor Barbado, do you like strategy games, RTS turn-based, more complicated ones like Paradox? Do you think those kind of games are good for a play night with Patreons? Those particular games, no. I don't think they're necessarily good to do a Patreon game with. The reason why is it's kind of a niche genre, and there aren't a great many people that like it. There's not a lot of personal interaction with games like that. And, you know, those Paradox games, those are designed by their very nature to be extremely long, where you can spend minutes or hours contemplating your turn. And, you know, those games are designed to run for weeks or months at a time. You know, more faster RTS games like StarCraft 2 or something like that. Again, I don't think it would be really good for like a streamer-based game for interaction with the audience, because it's so concentration intensive. And I think kind of more laid-back game would be a better bet for something like that. But conversely, I do love strategy games. I really do. I mean, my favorite games, you know, Command and Conquer, StarCraft, Warcraft, those were all fantastic, and I love them to death. JSL, so I'm currently writing a piece on why the DMCA is outdated. Am I allowed to cite you? Absolutely. Absolutely. Elante, can you play chess? Yes. I haven't played in years because every single time my friends decided to get into chess, I would absolutely destroy them.
What now?
And it just got to the point where they refused to play me anymore.
Looking in target.
Oh no! Oh, that hurt.
Internal structure damage. Commander?
Yeah, these shots are just all over the place. I'm not doing well. I'm going to lose this match. Yep, there it goes. There went my Kitaro. This match is probably not going to last long. JSL, so what is your day job again? I work in IT as a project manager, project lead, managed services lead, and kind of a general GM. So yeah, I do all the really hard stuff, all of the server admin crap.
Standing by.
Wow, I'm doing horrible this match. Professor Barbado, any thoughts about Call of Duty World War II and the watching other people open loot boxes and getting rewarded for it? Yes, I have a lot of thoughts on that, and none of them good. This is... You recall that Activision had a patent on a method to promote matchmaking within a system in order to promote microtransaction sales. And this is not it, but this is every bit as insidious, to where you open a loot crate. First off, it has all the, the pseudo gambling that we have to call it pseudo gambling because it's not gambling, even though it absolutely is gambling, that the loot boxes are to begin with, coupled with a potential for a pay-to-win scenario, which I haven't played Call of Duty yet, so I don't know if there's any pay-to-win aspects involved in that, but I'm going to assume that there probably are. And on top of that, you have the communal envy aspect that comes from watching someone get something really cool out of these loot boxes in order to entice and foster a desire in other people to possess that same thing. And I think it's absolutely insidious, and it is disgusting. And yeah, games like that do not deserve to profit whatsoever. I had purchased it, but I'm probably going to refund it at this point, just because of that.
Yes, Commander. Engaging. Aye, aye. On the move. Firing all weapons.
Oh, this is going to hurt. Oh no, he's going to get behind me.
Armor breach. Internal damage.
Yeah, I'm going to lose this match.
Aye, aye. Understood.
Missed again. Okay, from Jinzo again. You think this loot box thing is nothing more than an arms race for the industry, or a race to the bottom to see where consumers will break at? Right now, I mean, we've already seen the breaking point. We've already hit it with the EA games. And that's what they're doing. They are pushing as hard as they can against that wall until we break. That way, when they ease off a half step, most people will feel grateful for it and will be more accepting. And they will continue this. And they've done this throughout the years. We've seen it with the microtransactions. Well, first it was the cosmetics. I'm like, fuck you, I have to pay extra money in a game after I buy it? No way. Now it's extremely commonplace, and most people generally accept it, even make excuses for it. I've done so in the past as well. And we see that continual cycle where they'll push extremely hard and then ease off just enough to relieve the tension, and then push forward even harder and then ease off a little bit. And they will continue to do that until these loot box microtransactions will be commonplace. Unless a line is drawn in the sand. No loot boxes, no microtransactions, otherwise your game will not get purchased. That's the only way to stop it, is to make sure that these games are less profitable with the existence of these microtransactions than without them. Have I had a chance to play Super Mario Odyssey? Absolutely not. It's Nintendo. Nintendo's a dirty word in this household. The reason why is because I discussed Nintendo in the past on my channel, and I ran afoul of their content ID claiming, and they threatened to destroy my channel if I continued to push on the content ID claims, which, I was a tiny, tiny channel at the time. I still am. And, they're a giant megacorp. So with that, I refuse to promote Nintendo. I think it's hilarious. I thought it was absolutely mind-bogglingly hilarious when the Nintendo Switch came out, and we saw all these Twitch streamers and all these YouTubers coming out. Oh, the Nintendo Switch is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then Nintendo Content ID'd all of their content. And then, wait, what happened? You knew what was going to happen. It was Nintendo. You knew they were going to do it. So don't stand there and go, yes, Nintendo's the greatest thing, and then get all upset and butthurt when they content ID your stuff. They have no respect for you. They don't deserve your publication. They don't deserve your promotion. So no, I don't cover Nintendo on my channel at all. I refuse to. I don't own any of their products, nor will I. Not until they change their practices when it comes to content creators. What is your take on emulation for obsolete and unsold games? I think it's fantastic. I really do. Emulators could be a wonderful, wonderful tool. I've used Nintendo 64 emulators in the past, and I've also used old DOSBox to be able to run Wing Commander 3, actually. And, all those games I had purchased. And so, I feel completely justified with making use of technology that will allow me to continue to play the products that I had paid money for. A lot of people will argue, well, pirated games and everything like that. But, piracy happens even when the game is out on a modern system. Piracy happens, whether it be Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. Piracy is everywhere, regardless. But the ability to run emulation on a PC is one of the fantastic aspects of owning a more powerful PC, is that I can run a PlayStation 3 emulator and I can have better graphics and better frame rates from those PlayStation 3 games than you will ever be able to get out of the PlayStation, even out of the PlayStation 4. Jake Morgan asks, do you think getting ahead of pirates by the devs releasing a free torrent for a new indie game is a good idea, or do you feel it is a very dangerous move? I think it's a very good idea. I do. I can't remember the game that I covered on my channel, but I believe I did a Diamond Devs video on them. It's because of companies like G2A were selling illegitimate keys, stolen keys. And so instead of allowing these companies to profit at the developer's expense, they decided to release a full torrent of their game, and then ask people if they enjoy it, then to maybe consider giving them some money. And, these developers, they've been active with their community. They've been well receptive to feedback. Most of the developers that do that sort of thing are exactly the type of developers we need in this industry. And I hope every single time that they do something like that, that they are the better for it and that they get more visibility and more income because of it. Once upon a time, demos were a thing. They were. Every game had a demo. Some of them were very, very scripted, very linear, even not part of the base game. Some demos were. And now we don't see those anymore. People say, well, you have the 2-hour refund thing on Steam. The problem is, if you start abusing that, Steam won't allow you refunds. But, there are a lot of people that torrent a game specifically to demo it. And after they decide they like it or not, they will pay money for it.
Sid, I'm not sure if you can hear this, and I do certainly hope not to be a bother in any way, shape, or form.
I can hear you.
But seeing as Jinzo seems to be indisposed at the moment, I was wondering if I might know what was going on with the stream currently. My apologies if I'm of a bother.
No,
just curious so I can let other people know what's going on.
The health looks good to me. Here I need to, let's see, maker, stream so far looks good, just ranting. So yeah, there's a lot of people with financial situations that aren't that great that have they have a need to budget their funds carefully. And, torrenting a game, even though it's considered piracy, if you're doing it to demo it, to see if you want to give someone money, to me, is not necessarily a bad thing. As long as it's used for legitimate purposes. No, it's not on Twitch, Makers. Yeah, we went ad hoc because stuff wasn't working right. So yeah, I hope that answers the question adequately. I know I can kind of go off on tangents a little bit. But yeah, it also, the second part of that, do I feel that it's a very dangerous move? It can be. I mean, that's also the thing. It can absolutely backfire. We haven't seen an instance of that happening yet, but that is something that can definitely occur. There's always that risk.
Right here.
See, I don't know where we left off with the questions because Jinzo's power dropped.
Here we go.
Oh my god, missing with every shot.
Bad luck.
Bad luck. And of course, they're making every shot.
Damage minimal. Commander. Attempting physical assault.
There we go.
Reporting light damage.
I'm still here. There
Enemy
is no other
flanking.
question at the moment.
Stabilizer failed.
Oh,
I'm
left
falling.
leg destroyed. That one's gone.
Ah, damn it! I took one in the meat.
Yeah, I'm so gonna lose this one. Yep, death by the dice. That does happen sometimes.
Damn it! I got an armor breach.
Oh, called shot to the CT. That's rough.
Standing by. I'll try.
So I do have a question for you. What do you think is going to be the next big thing in genre of gaming?
The next big thing in the genre of gaming. That's tough to say,
Reporting
really.
internal damage.
I mean, we've seen the fads come and go so quickly. I mean, we had the RTS fad, and we also have the yearly iteratives like the Call of Duties and the Battlefields. We're probably going to see a huge push more towards those long-term games as a service, as they keep referring it to. But basically, it's going to be along a similar model as what you saw with Grand Theft Auto 5. I think that will be, as far as the AAA industry is concerned, that is the course that they want to set, and they will do absolutely everything they can to make sure that they stay on that course.
I'm here. I'm up. Let's go.
Elante asked, do you think we will get more games with female protagonists?
Yes and no. I mean, there are already so many games out there with male and female protagonists. I understand that a lot of people say there's just not enough female protagonist games, and I actually would argue that I think it's fine. Most games that I enjoy has a female protagonist. I mean, or you at least have an option to choose between male or female. I think that you'll see a lot more games that just stick with that model of player choice in that aspect, whether you have male, female, or other. Oh, favorite Command & Conquer game? That's a tough call. I think I'd have to go
Mike
with...
D asks, yeah.
I think my favorite Command & Conquer game would be... I'm going to have to go with nostalgia, and that would be the Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun.
Copy that.
Curious, have you seen Tim Curry lately? I mean, ever since his stroke, he wasn't looking too well.
I have not, no. I didn't even know he had a stroke.
Yeah, he had a stroke like 3 years ago, I think.
Standing by.
Professor Barbardo
yeah.
asks, thoughts about other countries having more expensive games than other ones. Example, a game in a console in Brazil costs 2 or 3 times more than the original US price or EU price.
Thoughts about the price variations. Well, you have to remember that the allowance to set different prices is something that Steam affords developers on a per-game basis. And so a lot of them will adjust for the vagaries of the monetary value compared to the US dollar in those countries. And so they do that to make it, hopefully a bit more affordable for people that live in those countries to be able to purchase the games, because some money is better than none, because literally it costs them nothing extra. But there are a lot of companies out there that have decided, well, I want you to pay the same, $60 US is what you're going to pay regardless. I don't care whether it's a half a month salary for you or not. That's what you're going to pay. And I think that's kind of a little dickish, to expect someone that is not afforded the same opportunities to be forced to deal with the same outcome. When there's an inequality of opportunity, there should not be an equality of outcome. If there is an equality of opportunity, then there should be an equality of outcome, or not necessarily an equality of outcome, but the outcome will be more equal. Basically, I don't like it. If you live in a country where you earn much less than you do in more modernized countries, and your standard of living is lower and your cost of living is also conversely probably going to be lower, but the cost of video games should also reflect that, I think. And a lot of times it doesn't.
Standing by. Let's move.
I'll just keep ramming them until I die.
Right here.
question, as I feel I've missed out on a lot. Are we as mods allowed to suggest questions in lieu of there not being any others?
Yeah, absolutely.
Targeting 4 and Alpha Strike.
Yes, mods can post questions. Genzo's already posited a few questions.
Thank you. Might I ask, what is your take on the fighting game genre?
Internal structure
Fighting
damage.
game genre? Not a fan. I'm really not. Especially not with. I know Street Fighter V was a bit of a vagary in that aspect, but the
Yes,
simple
Commander.
fact that they offered giant IOUs where the majority of the game was supposed to be was absolutely despicable. Oh, that'll do it.
Tango down.
So yeah, I'm not necessarily a fan of fighting games. I never really have been since after Street Fighter 2, to be honest. Ooh, ouch.
My mech's coming apart around me.
Yeah, it's a lot easier on a normal stream when there's more
What
people
might you
watching.
say was your most rewarding experience as a
Aye, aye.
YouTuber or streamer?
Most rewarding. That could be
Roger.
taken in a lot of ways, I think.
Roger.
Wow, missed again. Well, that one hit at least.
Scored a critical hit.
Ooh, you destroyed his SRA memo. Why is there no internal damage from that?
I'm
My
failing. I'm going down.
wow. One of my biggest moments,
I'm gonna need a medic.
I think it was actually the morning that Jim Sterling did a video about me, or that whole instance surrounding the Dentola Studios debacle, to where I had Jim Sterling. I woke up and I went and checked my YouTube. It was like, oh, I got a bunch of I got like 50 new subscribers. Wow, that's impressive. And then I had the live counter up, and it just started ticking over faster and faster. And I saw a person comment on the video, said Jim Sterling sent me. And then I was like, oh, well, Jim, I know he put out a tweet about my Dentola Studios issue. So cool, that's getting me some extra views. Awesome. And then another person said, Jim Sterling sent me. Jim Sterling sent me. And then they just started flooding in, and I kept watching the live counter just go crazy. And I was like, what? No. And I was getting ready for work. And so I clicked over, and sure enough, there was a Jim Sterling video talking about little old me. And I was sitting there, and I was amazed at how many new subscribers I was getting over the course of half an hour. I went from between 7:15 and 7:45, I had gained over 700 new subscribers. And, 3,000 was my goal for the end of this year. This year, my goal was to hit 3,000 subscribers. I broke that before I left for work. My goal for the end of 2018 was 10,000 subscribers. I broke that by the end of the day. And I realized that was basically the moment where I realized the reason why so many people were subbing to my channel and were liking what they were seeing was because of how I comported myself in that video, where I was put under extreme stress, knowing fuck all what to do. And I was actually so angry that I was shaking when I was recording that video. But I handled myself as calmly as I could because I didn't want anyone to know that it had gotten to me. And that was when I realized that the track that I was taking with my YouTube channel up until that point wasn't, the content and everything and my intent were all well and good, but the way I was comporting myself could have been better. And so it was that reason that decision to change to a more calm, reasoned, intellectual focus was what's basically the main thing, that main realization that got me to where I am right now, which would not have happened had Jim not done that video about the Dentola Studios issue and forced me to come to that realization. So yeah. That and the voice. A lot of people said they stayed for the voice, which is perfectly fair. I don't mind that at all.
Yes, Commander.
Mike D asked, have you supported any Kickstarter or Indiegogo games?
No. I have not.
Say so.
And the reason why is because Kickstarter is such a game. Well, I shouldn't say no. I did back Star Citizen, but I did so I could actually look at the game.
Roger that.
So I could visually see the process of the game's development. Ouch.
Armor breach. Internal damage. They're blowing through my armor.
Elante asked, do you have any favorite horror games?
Do I have favorite horror
I
games?
believe this was asked before, but Elante asked, do you have a
Awaiting
favorite
orders.
horror game? Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The favorite horror... I'm not a fan of the horror genre. I'm really not.
Moving out.
I don't like them. They don't.
Reduce
I don't
mobility.
get
My
anything
mech
out
is
of them because
limping.
I don't really get scared by video games.
We'll go.
That's right. Boom! You're done. There's a potential I might survive this yet.
That shot went internal. I'm here.
How do you feel about the future of VR in gaming right now?
The future of VR in video games. I think they're going the wrong direction with it. They're trying to... Ooh, that hurt. Oh boy, this is gonna be
Standing by.
brutal.
Roger that. Copy that. Firing out.
The future of VR in video games. Sorry, I started focusing a little bit too much on the game. I've been streaming a lot this weekend. Wow. It's going the wrong direction, and I think that... because... you see a lot of games right now for VR that they're basically tech demos. They're showing off what VR is capable of doing. Whereas you have games like Eve Valkyrie and also Star Citizen, games like that where you have a sit-down, focused, immersive experience, which is, I've been led to believe, is absolutely phenomenal from what I've seen with videos and everything. And I think that's really where the core aspect of VR should be focused on, is, you know, racing simulators and flight simulators and things like that. It's things where you don't need a whole room dedicated to VR, or something where you can have a platform that you stand on holding a gun analog for first-person shooter games. You know, that sort of thing I could see. But they're trying to do everything VR, and it shouldn't really be... It shouldn't be that broad focus. It should be much more streamlined and focused on those sit-down aspects first to get people accustomed to VR, get it well known, get it established as a viable method of gaming, and then be able to integrate, like, I think AR probably would be a better direction to take things for the majority of games than VR. Looks like we had a little dip there in the stream. We should be back to normal now. Not quite sure what happened there. I just get some weird vagaries. I haven't been able to...
Justin
nail
S.
it down.
asked, do you think consumers would accept a substantial price increase if games meant taking out loot boxes and microtransactions?
See, that's the thing. Those substantial price increases are already there. Jim Sterling actually covered this, and of course he beat me to the punch a little bit on it. But anyone who says a game costs $60, it's always cost $60, that is not the case anymore. Games cost you, basically, for the AAA games, they cost you $80, $90, $100, $120. The $60 base package is a myth. It's a rumor. It's still there. You can still buy it, but that's not what you end up going with. Most people will go with that higher dollar value package, the $80, $90. I just wish they would stop nickel and diming things and making these pseudo statements like, oh, games are more expensive to make now. Actually, no, they're not. Games have had a steady value as far as game production costs than over the course of the past decade. The only thing that's increased is marketing budgets. And, microtransactions, they need it to pay for the game. No, they don't. They really do not. And I've lost count of how many other people have covered this. Tarmac did an amazing video that I know Jim Sterling and Total Biscuit both tweeted out about and shared, and I'm pretty sure I did as well. He did an amazing breakdown and a fantastic amount of research discussing how the prices in video games have not increased at all. And it was a huge amount of research for him that he condensed down into something that was very concise, very easy to see, and very easy to understand. And if you need any help with that, definitely go check out his video, because it was a phenomenal piece of work. But, I've been saying before the microtransactions that, yeah, I would be fine with a price increase from $60.
And Lante asks, and I'm also going to add this along with me because it's kind of...
Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine, I didn't. But Lante along with me asks, what's the best thing you've ever gotten out of a thing that came with a game, like a collector's edition or whatever, like a t-shirt?
That's a good question. Because I don't really buy collector's edition copies very much. I don't like the toys and the little shinies.
How do you feel about collector's editions of games?
I think probably the best thing I got was the Oblivion cloth map. Was probably the most fun thing for me. I like things like that. I do. I enjoy that sort of thing with like the papyrus or the cloth style things. How do I feel about those collector editions and collector's copies? I think it's fine. It's getting a physical copy to give people to be able to hold in their hands and have memorabilia and stuff like that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Copy that.
Miss again. Should just meleeed him.
Jake Morgan asks, how would you feel about an online game implementing choice between an ad-based version of a game or a premium ad-free game?
As far as online games go, I don't like advertisements in my games. Period.
On my way.
I'm paying for the game. I'm paying for the experience. Don't push advertisements. Missed again. Oh, head hip. Nice.
Favorite retro game that you still revisit?
Baldur's Gate 2. Hands down. Those were, I've played Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 all the way through probably 7 or 8 times by now over the course of all the intervening years.
Right here.
I believe the question wasn't fully answered. Jake Morgan meant an ad-supported version that's free versus with the option to buy an ad-free version.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so more like an online MMO or something of that nature where you could play it free with advertisements or not. Oh, great. Not sure what's going on with the game. I think it bugged out. There it goes. You know, I think with an ad versus ad-free model, depending on the game, I would probably be okay with that.
Standing
actually.
by. Moving to position.
Do I side with Bodhi in Baldur's Gate 2? No. I kill them all.
Yes, Commander. I'm there. Going hand to hand, I guess.
Have you ever experienced or experimented with games that have ASCII graphics, like a popular example being Dwarf Fortress?
Dark Fortress with ASCII graphics. Oh man. No. Not really, no. That sort of thing. Because you have to remember that I tend to avoid a lot of game
Dwarf
types and
Fortress.
styles. A lot of games types and styles because, you know, I grew up during the time when those style of graphics were the norm. You know, where you had games like Zork, which was a text-based only adventure with nothing linear. I mean, you had to figure out the commands, and you had to figure everything out. And things where, you know, the 8-bit graphics that you see in games like Minecraft were the standard. They were, even at that point, cutting edge. And so to play retro-style games like that, they don't hold much appeal for me, which, you know, that seems to be a common problem with a lot of gamers that have lived through the 80s and 90s, that, you know, we just have no interest in going back to those. We've seen the progression. We've seen where we've been. I want to look more towards where we can go. Not to say that those games are bad by any means, but,
Right here.
you know, given a choice between a game from the past decade and a game from the early 90s, I would probably play the game from the past decade. Jake Morgan, in regards to the Baldur's Gate games, you can get the enhanced editions on Steam for not much money. They're very inexpensive, comparatively speaking.
Standing by.
I'm just going to keep ramming this guy until I die or he
I'd
dies.
rather do it, but
There we go. If I live through this, I'm going to laugh.
I just realized I'm sitting on the fusion reactor. Moving to position. Locking in target.
Oh, now we're going to play the ramming game.
I
Okay.
don't like how this is going.
Oh, this is going to go bad.
Internal structure damage. Right here.
Speaking of, as it seems to be popping up in chat now, how do you feel about Good Old Games as a platform
I'm there.
in contrast to Steam?
I like them. I do. I like the DRM free aspect. I've bought a lot of games on GOG. and I think that they're just all around a pretty solid platform. The difficulty is Steam is... Oh, there was my CT.
Mission failed.
The problem is Steam is still the biggest boy on the block, so the majority of games are going to be there. So it's one of those things where I like GOG, but, you know, it's one of those things where you kind of want all your games to be in one spot, just for ease of use. And that's the difficulty with these digital platforms. That's probably why GOG hasn't surpassed Steam yet, is because people already have large libraries on Steam and they don't want to deal with games in multiple spots. But I would, generally, I would prefer to check GOG first for a game. What is the last thing I bought on GOG?
Lauren asks, what's your last game that you bought on GOG?
I'd have to go look. GOG. Let's go look at my GOG. It's going to make me sign in. Oh, and it's going to email me a security code. Okay, yeah, I'd have to go look, to be honest. I'm not going to go through all the steps to verify and everything.
Welcome, Commander.
As we don't have too many people here and the questions are kind of staggered, we'll probably go ahead and end the general AMA in about 10 minutes.
What do you think about Uplay, Battle.net?
Battle.net's fine. It's pretty solid. You know, that's basically just Blizzard's home front. Uplay is, you know, that's just not good. I'm not a fan of Uplay. It's basically just there to use as a DRM.
Commencing deployment.
And because of that, I'm not...
Yeah, I didn't really finish that question, but what do you think about Uplay, Battle.net, Origin, etc., and other AAA schemes trying to be the other new Steam?
You know, everyone's going to try and be the new Steam, but, you know, the thing is with Uplay and... with Uplay and all of those others like Origin, those are just single publisher platforms that are producing their own games. That they're only putting their own games on it, or games that fall under their publishing umbrella. They aren't a true digital distribution platform in the sense that Steam or GOG is, because those two companies are third party. And because of that, Uplay and Origin might not want to put their games on a third-party platform, but they're never going to be able to compete with those third-party platforms, and I don't think they intend to.
Commander? Moving out.
I think that should probably be the last question. I think that's a good way to end on it.
Okay, we'll give it another minute or two for anyone to do any follow-up questions or wrap-up or anything like that, or just any ridiculousness that anyone wants to ask. It's totally fine.
Coordinates received. I got a sensor trace. More hostiles.
Have I answered favorite song? I have not.
When do you think you'll be able to do something like this again?
When do I think I'll be able to do something like this again?
And also, Jesse Justice asks, have you answered favorite song?
When will I be able to do something like this again? It depends on turnout. I mean, the turnout here is pretty low. So because of that, we might keep it to a once a month sort of thing. If churn out increases and it gets to be a bit much to handle in an hour, hour and a half, or 2-hour format, then at that point we'll probably increase it to a weekly. But I think for right now, monthly is perfectly fine. I think it's perfectly acceptable. Plus, you guys can still ask me questions in the meantime in Discord. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that. Favorite song? That's a tough call. Tough call. Probably... I think probably my most favorite song of all time is, surprisingly enough, even though I'm a huge rock and metal fan, 60 Years On by Elton John. And the reason why is because it just the story behind it is pretty damn phenomenal.
Waiting for orders. I'm there.
Mine would be a really big curveball. Have you ever heard Revolution Number 9 by the Beatles?
No, I'm actually not. I'm gonna catch a lot of grief for this, but I am not a Beatles
Ready
fan.
for orders. Confirmed.
All the songs, basically, it's a bunch of sound effects, like stuff that's been recorded, and all John Lennon is saying, number 9, number 9. It's kind of experiment.
Oh, yeah, I actually do recall hearing that. I wasn't really a fan.
Awaiting orders. Moving to position. Roger that.
All right, Leg the Light Mech. New rock generator that has some great compilations. I'll take a look. Hey, Jushu. Sorry, you're coming in just at the tail end here. We'll probably give it about another 2 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things. So if you have any questions, feel free to let us know, and I'll do my best to answer them, of course.
Hey,
So I don't want anyone to be left out.
copy.
Elante would request some singing.
No. Short answer is no. I'm not going to sing. Sorry. It's going to have to take a lot more Patreon funds and subscribers than I've got now to convince me to sing for you guys in a right here, right now type basis.
Commander? Take this! That's a kill.
Oh god.
Reporting heavy damage.
Okay, now we're devolving into a combat back and forth here.
Commander?
Gods, seize her! is it with all the leg shots? Oh god.
Internal structure damage. Receiving you. Moving to position.
Just to Pam wanted to tell us about the incident earlier. Maker accidentally banned Pan off the server.
I was hoping they'll be the one to tell him, but
Why did she get banned off the server? Is she back on the server?
Yeah, it was accidental.
Okay.
I'm here. Okay, let's go. Okay. Enemy mech destroyed.
Yeah, I think I'll probably win this match quite handily.
Standing by.
Overkill? There's no such thing as overkill. There's just kill. And you're not going to let me shoot, are you? No, you're not. Okay.
They're blowing through my armor.
I guess perhaps for our last question, have you ever had a triumphant experience in gaming? Like something that made you feel very accomplished within a game?
Feeling very accomplished within a game. I mean, you kind of get that all the time with games with, you know, higher difficulty ratings and that sort of thing. I guess that would probably be in StarCraft 2. I managed to beat a Korean once.
Standing by.
So there's that. That made me feel pretty darn good.
Targeting for an alpha strike.
They came right back and stomped the crap out of me the next match, but I was able to get one good win in on a Korean.
Hey. Moving to position. Watch the heat. Aye, aye.
No, my reactions and everything when it comes to StarCraft just are not up to it
Moving to
anymore.
position.
So there's no way I could compete on any form of credible level anymore. I'm just too old. My reflexes are too slow. I still enjoy the game, but
Waiting for orders. Rolling. This should be good.
Do you think StarCraft 2 has managed to surpass Brood War as a game?
as a game, that's a tough call. I'd have to say they are on par with each other for a variety of different reasons.
Standing by.
The first is the AI and unit pathing and
Position
everything in
confirmed.
StarCraft 2 is vastly superior. The graphics, of course, are better. And, you know, the more modern the game, the more quality of life changes that are made. So to me, I think it is a superior game, but there are plenty of Koreans out there that actually prefer the original StarCraft. So that one, mostly it would come down to personal preference in a lot of aspects.
Yes, Commander. On the move. Target confirmed.
The one single small laser. Ooh, ouch.
I'm hit. Oh, I'm hit.
Alright, so we'll run over here. Basically, people are scrambling
Light damage. Holding firm.
for questions. So I think we're just going to go ahead and call it good here. And thank you guys for coming. I do appreciate it. We will do one again at the beginning of December. And in the meantime, don't forget to follow on Discord. And don't forget to like and share everything. We'll probably put this out to general after a few days. We'll leave it for Patreon only. I might just leave it as Patreon, as a Patreon only video. It's entirely possible. I'll have to figure that out. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and close out. I have to go drive the short one into town so we can pick up her backpack from her mom so I can take her to school tomorrow. And then I'll probably come back and I'll probably stream some more Dragon Age because I've been having a blast hanging out with the chat and everyone in there. And I just don't feel like going back to the normal grind today. I just feel like goofing off and having some fun. So I think we'll just stick with that. So thanks, guys, for coming. And I do appreciate you all supporting me on Patreon. That's incredible that anyone would even be willing to do that, especially with the demonetizations that have been hitting everything. It's just been absolutely amazing, and I do appreciate it. So thanks again, guys, and I will see you next time.
Hiring is important, but finding the right people can be a real challenge. That's why ZipRecruiter is obsessed with finding you qualified candidates fast. ZipRecruiter finds candidates with the right experience and notifies them to apply for your job. No wonder 80% of employers who